All right, it's all yours, Autumn. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Nick. Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's Real Talk, Black History is Black Horror. First, let me introduce a description of Real Talk. Real Talk, Voicing the Margins, is a series of curated live conversations on issues and topics of critical importance to marginalized communities, including but not limited to people of color, LGBTQAI+, and economically disadvantaged citizens. Providing a voice and platform for often voiceless people is at the heart of this series. Real Talk, Voicing the Margins is a partnership with the Woody Guthrie Center, the Tulsa Artists Fellowship, Folk Alliance International, Black Wall Street Times, and Tri-City Collective. During the pandemic, our Real Talk series is platformed on Facebook Live, and in time, we will return to live audiences at the Woody Guthrie Center. At this time, we would like to share Woody Guthrie's land acknowledgement. In the centennial year of the Tulsa Race Massacre, the Woody Guthrie Center acknowledges the land on which we gather is the home of the Osage, Cherokee, and Muskogee Creek Nations, as well as being the ancestral home of the Caddo and numerous other tribes before the forced removal. Their honor and blood inform our spirit and our work. We also acknowledge the Black Americans who lost life, property, and general wealth in the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre. Their honor and blood inform our spirit and our work. So without further ado, let me introduce our esteemed panelists who are joining us this afternoon. We have Nicole Jocleen. Nicole is a writer who has published works of fiction and poetry. In 2020, her poem, Thank God for the Internet, was a featured selection in the book 2020, The Year That Changed America, edited by Kevin Powell's Writing Workshop. Nicole has been writing scripts and producing independent films with Devoted Media Group since 2015. The messages in her films tackle a wide range of topics from police brutality, Black trauma, spiritual soul ties, love, and wrongful convictions. To support these films, visit the Devoted Media Group YouTube page. James Video Hero Ridley is an award-winning filmmaker and documentarian. He's also 1/4 of Devoted Media Group and from Spencer, Oklahoma. And last but not least, we have Hank Byrd. Hank is an award-winning filmmaker, screenwriter, and CEO of Sentimental Filmworks. Hank has produced shorts, the documentary In the Thick, Conversations from the Plus Side of Life. He's optioned 3 screenplays and is currently in production on the web series Byrd, with the first 2 episodes currently streaming on Tubi. So thanks, you guys. I really appreciate you guys taking the time out of your Saturday afternoon to talk with us today about Black history is Black horror. So according to novelist and scholar Tananarive Due, Black history is Black horror. Black audiences and creators have a unique perspective on horror. Black horror is not just a subgenre, it is a rethinking of what horror means. Jordan Peele's 2017 hit Get Out turned Black horror from an underground niche into a commercially viable genre, separated from cinema. Separated from cinema, Black history could be thought of as Black horror. This Real Talk will address the way the horror genre reflects and connects with Black history. So I want to open the floor up to you guys and just pose this question. How do you define horror? What does horror mean to you? And I'll start with Nicole. What does horror mean to you?
I would say anything that scares you. So anything that, brings that intense fright out of you, to me is horror.
Jay? I think you're muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes. I can hear you.
Describe feel is is excitement. But me as a Black person, I think that's the only way we react to traumatic stuff. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's different than it's like it's excitement to me. It's
Excitement. What about you, Hank?
Well, horror is multi-layered, so it tackles people's fears. It makes you face a lot of fears you may have. So it depends on the type of horror it is. Us being Black folks watching horror is usually in a white space. So for us, it's voyeurism. You know, we get to see white folk make decisions that we wouldn't. And sometimes it's comedic, sometimes it's horrific, sometimes it's gross. It depends on what it is, you know, because we'll watch Becky go into the basement and we wouldn't have did that. And we be like, why are you going in the basement? So it depends on what it is. So horror is multi-level, you know, it deals with myths, it deals with folklore, it deals with trauma, it deals with a lot of things. So it's kind of multi-layered, but it all comes back to facing a fear of some type.
Yeah, I would say like for me watching horror films, it's like it shows me what not to do in certain situations. And so there are things that I pick up in a horror film, like, okay, you know, like keep your keys out, you know, run out the door, don't run up the stairs. And so, but you definitely made a good point about seeing like what some people do that you're just like, that's so stupid. Like, why would you do that? So yeah, I think horror can take on so many definitions. One thing that we were talking about, Hank, was the slasher film horror, and how I feel like, you know, we're at a space now where like slasher films don't really have that same horrific feeling that they once had. Now we watch them and just like, why would you do that? Like, why would you go to a house in the woods? So what do you guys think about just the trajectory of horror, especially considering how now horror has taken kind of a political stance? What do you think, Hank?
Actually, horror has always had a political stance.
Yeah,
It's not new. Horror's always had that. Horror and what genre film in particular has always had that. So if you think about films like Night of the Living Dead, George Romero made the hero a Black man for a reason. You know, at the end of that film, the Black man wound up dying, revealing who the real monsters were in the end. So horror's always had that nuance. It's always had something to say about society. So I think now some of the horror films now can get a little heavy-handed with it, taking kind of the horror out of it and really stamping to make a political point. I think Get Out was a good example of, you know, a balance of horror and comedy and satire and horror. So it was a good balance of that in the film. So that's why it probably was received so well, because the messages were there, especially if you're Black, and you really could unpack that. You could encode what he was trying to say with that film. And so, yeah, horror, as far as the messaging in horror, it's always been there. Yeah, so it hasn't really changed. So the landscape of horror now, though, I think a lot of guys are it's more art house now than it is horror. You know, I think it looks good, sounds good, but it really isn't saying a lot with a lot of films. It's torture porn mostly. So you mentioned Midsummer, which basically that's what it was. Midsummer really didn't have anything to say. It was just torture porn. It was just people in an area that looked really pretty getting killed in horrific ways. And so it really didn't say much. And I think that's kind of where we are with horror, is more shock value than anything else. But you have some people that are making some films that are really saying something. Like, again, I saw Antlers last night, and that really was a deep allegory on childhood abuse, weaved into a horror film. And it was very well done. So you got something to stand out, though.
Jay, what are your thoughts?
like Hank said, like Jordan and either the Ari Aster dude, the guy that made Midsummer, he did Hereditary as well. And I think those two directors, they kind of shifting where horror is going right now is more thought provoking. Ari's is like his praise on like your worst thoughts that you never even would think about out loud or say something that, you know, he prays on, because he said that Midsummer is about basically him breaking up with his girlfriend. Like, I didn't get that really from that Midsummer, but that's what he said. You know what I'm saying? So it's like sometimes you don't have to overthink stuff just to scare people. You know, if your mission is to frighten people, I mean, send them through hoops, and you know, I'll scare Black people because that's a lot of Black people's worst fear. That's what we're afraid of, you know. So, but like, I think a lot of people nowadays are trying to do Get Out or something like that, because I'm like you said, our house, like that's where it's going now. It's like Olympics, like film Olympics, like everybody's trying to outdo everybody with the camera angles and stuff. And every story.
Yeah. Nicole, do you have anything to add?
I was gonna say, when I think about like the 90s horror movies, the biggest thing was being a teenage girl trapped in a house and the killer's in there. So the whole movie is about trying to get away from the killer, and you're running up the stairs, running down the stairs, and it's just like, you know, ridiculous. But in the time of watching in the 90s, you're like, oh, that's really scary. Like, I'm in this big house alone or whatever. But that was done so much, you know, the panicky, you know, teenage girl, that I think filmmakers just are trying to evolve to where they were maybe the slasher, the blood, they were trying to scare you physically. Now they're more or less trying to scare you mentally. So it's like, I think just trying to take it up a notch as far as, okay, that's no longer scary. Now that's funny because it was done so much. What can be the new level of horror? So I think that's what people are creeping into now, and why, you know, Black filmmakers are starting to tackle horror. So, you know, they're trying to take it up a notch. So that's why it's going into such a mental, you know, scary thing.
Yeah. To your point about mental scariness, so we were talking before this call about that film, Horror Noir, and one of the earlier horror films that they reference, is Birth of a Nation. And they reference it as horror because of how mentally, you know, it was able to seep into the minds of white Americans, creating this horrifying image of the Black man, like Black men, and their, you know, deviance toward white women. And so what do you guys think about, I mean, Birth of a Nation, I've not seen it, but on the outside, it doesn't look like a horror film, but we see how the film planted like horrifying images and conceptions about Black men. So what are you guys' thoughts about that? Jay?
Were made, like it worked, like it started the Klan, you know, like they like what they say, like tripled and just off that movie. Yeah, quadruple just off that movie. So it's like they're like, dang, yeah, that could happen to me. Like that was their horror. You know what I'm saying? Our horror is like I said, like a Get Out or something, but their horror is like us coming, taking their women, and they're like, that's what they think we, you know. So that was their worst fear. So it worked, you know. So it was the most effective horror film I think ever, ever.
Yeah. What do you think, Nicole?
I agree with Jay. That was, you know, I know I've seen the movie, and when I watched it, I didn't think anything horror. You know, I didn't think anything, you know, scary was happening. But it was because I was looking at it through my eyes and not theirs. And to them, you know, that was scary, you know. And I would have never thought about it like that. But yeah, they were, you know, that was scary to them. When I think about like the TV show Them, there was a scene, you know, where the Black mom, she has her baby in the house, and there's a white woman outside coming in to take her baby. That, I mean, you can feel the fear all over that, but it's like you put a Black woman outside, come to take the baby, there's no fear. So it's like, why is that so fearful? Why are we so afraid of the other race and the power that they may have over us? Like, we don't have our own power, and vice versa. Like in Birth of a Nation, why are y'all so afraid when y'all run the country? What is there to be afraid of?
Yeah. Hank, do you have anything to add?
So this is a story that takes place after the Civil War. Now you're talking about Reconstruction. So you're talking about Black people who actually were thriving at that time, who were owning businesses and homes and trades and things like that. And so juxtaposed with white fear of Black people gaining power, Black people living amongst us, the fear of Black men, again, which all goes back to the fear of Black men and sex and their fetishization with our sexual prowess. And they were scared that we were going to steal their white women. And so Birth of a Nation, when you look at it, is two parts. It's utterly ridiculous. And it's also a grand film. It's actually a well-made film. I saw it when I took film studies class. We watched the movie. It's ridiculous. At points, a lot of people were laughing at the movie because you had a white dude in blackface crouching in the bushes, waiting to jump out on the white women, which was ridiculous. And so then the Klan would come in, and they were the heroes, and they wouldn't ride in and take care of the Black menace that was the Black man at the time. So yeah, that's their horror. It wasn't ours. A lot of us watching it didn't feel any way about it. We laughed at a lot of what we saw. But the danger in that, as Jay said, is that it quadrupled Klan recruitment. The film was played in the White House and heralded by the president. And it's still in the AFI top 100 films, greatest films of all time, still. So that's a little creepy.
That's like really telling on so many levels.
Right. And so, yeah, so that was their horror, not ours.
Yeah, yeah. So to your point, Hank, you said earlier, I mean, you're absolutely right. Horror has always taken on like this political angle. I mean, your reference of Night of the Living Dead, that film is made around like the civil rights movement. So that was made around the time where you see Black Americans in the streets marching, protesting, and images of them being sprayed by water hoses, attacked by dogs. And so with Night of the Living Dead, you kind of have that same resilience with the zombies who are kind of like overtaking. And then, like you said, like the fact that they used a Black main character. So why do you think the horror genre is such a great genre for you to put in like political satire, political imagery, political metaphors, and they can be subtle, right? Like they don't have to be like this big over the top, but they can be subtle. So why do you think the horror genre lends itself to that?
So because you can put every genre film, period. So just for the folks that don't know, genre film is horror, sci-fi, fantasy. So those types of films are ripe for putting in anything. You can make any kind of film with horror, sci-fi, and fantasy. So you can make a horror comedy, you can make a horror satire, you can make a sci-fi satire, sci-fi horror. You can play around in genre so much. That's why I never understand why a lot of Black filmmakers have an aversion for genre film. You know, when I talk to them, they're like, man, well, we trying to talk about what's going on with the Black man and all that stuff. Is you can do that. You can do that in the horror genre. Again, there have been films that have done that in genre film. Whether you're talking about Night of the Living Dead, whether you're talking about They Live, John Carpenter's They Live, which was a huge satire on America. Whether you're talking about a sci-fi film like District 9, where you have a alien ship floating over Johannesburg, South Africa with alien slaves. You think he wasn't trying to say something with that film. So these are genres that are ripe for putting in whatever you want to put in, and you can put it in so nuanced and just add it into the layers of the film where you don't even notice it until you unpack it. And so that's about, encoding and decoding messaging. That's what Jordan Peele did with Get Out. He encoded a lot in that film that, if you watch it, each time you watch it, you're decoding something different every time you watch that. So it's great to do that in horror. You can still keep the main elements of horror and scare people, but you can also have something to say. So you look at filmmakers like John Carpenter, David Cronenberg always talked about technology and the dangers of technology, the dangers of playing with medicine, the dangers of playing with science and playing God, with films like Existence or The Fly and all these other films where he was talking about the dangers of playing God, the dangers of playing with technology and fooling around with science. And so it was always something encoded into the messaging of those films. John Carpenter was good at that. The Thing was about trusting people. It was a multicultural cast for a reason. And talking about trusting people. And it wasn't a mystery that it ended with a black man and a white man at the end. They lived the same thing. You had a black man and a white man, and you put on the shades, you can see the world for what it really is. And so it's always been right for that. And so I wish more filmmakers would choose horror and sci-fi and fantasy to encode messages where you're not beating people over the head with your messaging, and you can encode it properly, well in those genres.
Jay, Nicole, do you guys have anything to add?
I agree with Hank. I think it's easier to take, easier to receive when it's done in a horror way. If you just know you're about to go watch a slave movie, you may check out because you don't want to really see that. You're about to watch a movie about a black man being killed by the police, you're like, I don't want to see that. But when it's in horror, it's like, oh, I didn't know that was going to happen. And then when you walk away from the movie, you're not as like you're not walking away sad. You're walking away like enlightened almost.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Medicine, the candy, they say. And
Jane,
so
your audio is like going in and out a little bit. But I feel you had something, so we're gonna wait because I feel like you had something really profound to say.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, I was saying it's good to put the medicine in the candy because sometimes people don't know it's good to show people that they're learning something they don't even know. They leave with something that they didn't know they needed, And another thing, horror movies are usually the cheapest to make,
Yes.
So it's always going to be easy to tell a story through horror because if you just have a house, and two people, you can make a horror film, That's all you need, really. And you can tell whatever story you want to tell, like just two people in a house,
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing that I kind of learned about in the horror noir, which we already kind of know this, like it's a joke almost, like the black character die at the beginning, like started out as like that's kind of like a running joke, but then throughout the horror noir film, I've learned just how salient that was when it comes to the fact that these characters were Black. And so we kind of see this historical tracing of like how Black characters function in horror films over time, from the fact that, they're first of all, they're portrayed as blackface, from being Black people being portrayed as blackface, to having a Black protagonist in Get Out. There's been a lot has gone on. So what are your thoughts about like kind of how historically the function of Black characters in horror films have evolved in a way?
Have they?
I mean,
know
we
what
have
I'm
Get
saying?
Out. Like Get Out is like really it, right? Where we have like the protagonist. And interestingly enough, you know, in that film, he's the protagonist, but at the end, he's almost like, thank God it was his friend in the car and not an officer, because we all know how differently that would have looked if he was standing over the body of a dead white woman. Right. But
Right.
yeah, talk to me about just kind of the function of Black characters in horror films.
They were just fodder for the killer. I mean, that's all Black people ever were in slasher films. We fodder for the killer. You know what I'm saying? We were, you know, we were memorable. You know, I remember what's my man's name? Miguel Nunez. And Miguel Nunez was in a Friday the 13th movie, and he was in a Night of the Living Dead movie, both with a Jerry curl, by the way. and died in both. I'm like, we were just fodder. We were fodder for the killer. We were usually the first ones to go, usually in the movies, but we rarely made it to the end of any kind of film like that. I think one of the first times I saw it was Deep Blue Sea. And LL made it to the end, and the whole time I was like, the shark gonna get him. I know he gonna get him. Like, and then the credits started rolling. I was like, what? Brother made it finally. The movie, because I just knew the shark was gonna eat him in the end. I just knew he was gonna snatch him under the water and kill him at the end of the movie. But yeah, you rarely see that. We just fodder for the monster, fodder for the slasher, fodder for whoever is in there. Or like we said, with the magical Negro, we have the book, or we have the knowledge, or we have the vision. We can see into the future and all of that. Molly, you in danger, girl. We just have that foresight to see everything in the movies. But yeah, rarely do we make it to the end, or we the focus of the movie.
Or go ahead.
Oh, good.
Or we're used for like the exhibition dump, like not exhibition, the dialogue dump, like exposition. We use it like to get that, like, so what's going on? So what's that? That's what we use it for. We use it. So what's that over there? So what's that monster about? What's the that's what we're there for. Just the comedy insert, like, damn, that's crazy. That's what we, you know what I'm saying?
Oh hell no.
Oh hell no. I'm not gonna hear you. Y'all white folks crazy. That's what we do. That's what we here for.
What was that movie? Bird Box. And Rail was in it, and Rail's the expert. He worked at a grocery store, but he know everything about what the monster is, because he happened to be writing a book at the time about myths and legends. And so we come with the exposition. We come with, well, maybe it's the Sumerian death god or whatever it is. We know we got the knowledge, we're the keeper of knowledge, but we ain't gonna make it. But somehow that knowledge don't keep us alive for the rest of the movie, though. And we self-sacrifice ourselves for white folk. So so he jumped in and killed it. He was the scariest thing in the movie, but he found the courage to kill himself for this white woman.
Kill somebody,
But
I mean, also with just like Annabelle, with the idea of like sacrificing yourself for the main character, like Viola Davis, her sole purpose in that movie was to be the magical Negro, magical Negress, and then to jump from the building to save the white family. And so we see like how we're still kind of relegated to this like servitude, domesticity like role as like Black characters in horror.
Right.
Yeah.
I would add Jada Pinkett. I think she was in Scream 2 or one of those horror movies. He had that dramatic death like in the first in a movie theater, and I remember thinking then, like, y'all killed off Jada Pinkett in the first 5 minutes, and then her death was so dramatic that I was like, did she just outact everybody in the movie in the first 5 minutes? But it was just like,
I feel like in my head I can see it. Like,
she was like, this so dramatic.
But I think that speaks to a bigger
I was like,
issue,
give
right?
them Jay to give she said, if I'm be this movie 5 minutes,
I'll
be back.
You're gonna get the death of all deaths.
I can still see it where she's just like falling to her knees, like, but I think that speaks to a bigger issue, right? Like all those people in the theater she's bleeding to death, asking for help, and no one cares. People literally watch her die, right? And I think that speaks to like whether the director wanted it to or not, but it speaks to the bigger issue of just like how no one cares about Black death. And
Nah,
in
they
a
don't.
theater full of folks, and she's asking for help, people are just like plotting, and she literally dies in front of her, and no one even notices it until.
Well, Wes Craven Wes Craven's involved with that, and Wes Craven's very smart. If you watch a lot of films that he's been involved with, he's super smart. And so, what he's talking about, Serpent and the Rainbow, what he's talking about, he was involved with People Under the Stairs. He was involved with a lot of movies that have some racial elements into it and political elements to it. So he might have done that on purpose. He's a very smart filmmaker that way. So
yeah. I love Scream. But also shout out to Brandy, because she lived in I Still Know What You Did last summer. So
The GOAT.
The GOAT.
Yeah.
So what's your thought? I mean, the title of this Real Talk is Black History is Black Horror, right? So what is your idea on, like, when we talk about like slasher films, like to us, we're like, first of all, you're not about to catch us in like a random forest, especially if there's some story about why the forest is haunted. You're not about to catch us in these like idiotic predicaments. That doesn't scare us, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what does scare me is seeing a police officer pull up behind my car, or going into a group of predominantly white people and I'm the only Black person in the room. Like, that scares me. So what is your idea about like the title of this Real Talk, like Black History is Black Horror?
I mean, as far as cinematically, I think there's a fixation on Black trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's carried over into film. One of the most recent films that I saw, it was called a horror film, but it was interesting. It's a film called Tyrell.
I remember that on Hulu.
And so
it's about, I'm talking about he was on The Shot. He got fired. The Shot. And so it's about a brother who spends a weekend with some young white dudes. Yeah.
And it's a strange film because nothing really happens.
Nope.
But you scared for the brother the whole movie.
The whole movie.
And you like, what they gonna do to this brother? Who these
like, why are you there?
Like, what is going on? Like every moment you like, they're gonna eat this brother, they're gonna kill him, what they gonna do to him? Like, and it just kind of ends. And it's like nothing really happens. So Black people in white spaces is scary. That's a scare. That's what that film taught me, that brothers and white dudes, brothers in white spaces can be scary.
Yeah.
That's easily like my worst fear, being the only Black person, because I went to school with Black people all my life, like 90% Black. So being around a group of white people, that's always been my worst fear, like one of my worst fears. But I think another thing that we don't really, I think Black people, more than we like to admit, we either are drawn to the movies that are like demonic, because we know because most of us are religious. So believing in God, you gotta believe in the devil. So we know we think demons exist. So either we don't watch it completely or we watch all of them. You know what I'm saying? We are kind of like, that's how we are we had a weird relationship with like those type, like the Ring or stuff like that, because we believe in that stuff,
Yeah, bro. I got a group of friends. We have a group where we, like, for the last month, we've been watching horror movies like almost every night. And so anytime I make a suggestion about anything that got any of that, man, I don't do spirits, bro. I can do anything. I'll do the monster, I'll do the vampires, aliens, but I don't be doing those spirits, bro. I don't believe in that. I don't believe, and it's true. I'm a preacher's kid. And nothing really scares me as far as horror films, because I watch horror films all my life.
Yep.
But that Paranormal Activity,
Yep, that was the scariest movie I ever seen.
man, I
was
in the car. I was in the car with
Bruh.
Kirk Franklin on.
I got
And the light,
goosebumps
and the light on
said
in the
it.
car. I had the light on in
Yeah.
the car. I got home, cut on all the lights. I put on some Mahalia Jackson. I was like, yo, bro,
Yep.
I don't do this. This is some spiritual,
Yep.
some deep spiritual stuff. And there's there's a side note about that movie. I remember when they were letting other directors see the movie before they put it out. They said Steven Spielberg got a copy of the movie and he watched it. He said Steven Spielberg said he put the movie in a bag and said, "Come get this movie out of my house."
Yeah. So spirits are like something we don't play
We don't
with.
do spirits. We don't play with the devil.
Nicole, what are you thinking? What are your thoughts over there?
I always think about like Get Out versus Us. Get Out, I feel like, was more scary because it had the racial aspect.
Yep.
Us, there was no racial aspect and it didn't hit as hard. It was interesting, it was creative, but it was like I remember like going to see it and Lupita popping up on the screen and laughing initially. And I don't know why. But you know what I'm saying? It was like something like, I don't know if it's a defense mechanism we have as Black people, or we just always trying to make something funny. But it's like, I know this is Lupita. If this is an actress I had never seen before, I could be a little scared. But because I know who this actress is, it's just kind of, oh, this is kind of funny. But because there was no racial thing with Us, you didn't hear about Us as much as you heard about Get Out. But Us was a very creative movie, though.
There wasn't.
Well, so when I think about, I'm so glad you brought this up, Nicole, because when I think about Us, I think about it less racially, especially when you put it against Get Out. But I think of it more as a classes, like the haves and the have-nots, right? And I think that issue is a lot grander than the race issue, because racially, we're pitted against each other, Black and white. But hey, I'm a Black woman, you're a white woman, and we both broke. So we have, that similarity. And so, but it hits less because the powers that be don't want us to come together, I feel like, on that same token. So when you say like Us wasn't talked about as much, it kind of goes back to what Hank said about like this, like kind of like the idea of like trauma porn when it comes to Black issues and racial issues. And in Us, it wasn't as explicitly Black and white, but it was more like, y'all are the haves, we're the have-nots, and we want some too. Like, we want a piece of the pie as well. So I'm so glad you brought that up. There are still so many questions about Us I have. Like, I've watched that movie 4 times. And I'm like, for instance, is the kid from the underground?
Yeah,
right.
I
think he was. I think he was.
Yeah. It seems always a little different.
But why would the kid that had the burn, why was he able to make, like when he was mimicking, remember at the end when the kid was mimicking the other kid, but it didn't work the same, no other part of the movie.
Yeah, none of the
like,
other characters.
Dumb, or is it just like,
But then I'm thinking like DNA, and so like we're just gonna unpack Us for like a couple minutes, right? DNA, because you're right, like no other character was able to control their counterpart the way the little boy was able to control his. And so I'm like, okay, so now my biological brain kicks in, and I'm like, if she was from the underground, so she has these like this DNA. So when we talk about like genetic variation, did the daughter get the dominant trait from the son? And then the son got the dominant trait from the mom? You know what I'm saying? So I'm just like, I have so many questions about this movie.
It was definitely a big movie about class. I mean, if you listen to the underground version of her character, it's like, I have these kids that I didn't want with this man that I didn't want in this world that I didn't want to be in, that you put me in. And you took me from where I was born and put me into this situation that I didn't want to be. And so it was like, and I watched, I'm sitting there looking at you thrive. you know, and have his life and be able to go to beach houses and go to these parties and all this stuff. And it's a class, definitely a class thing. It's like when they literally live underground in there's these caverns underground that were created by the government, you know, to house these genetic doppelgangers of us. Okay. And then they became conscious and rose up.
Yeah.
You know, against the people. And so now while it wasn't a racial thing, it was definitely a class. It was about classes, you know what I'm saying? And people rising up and, you know, and our fear of one another. You know what I'm saying? You have a quote unquote poor Black family and this rich Black family at each other. You know what I'm saying? So it was all about class. In my opinion, it was about class. And then going back to what Cronenberg was saying about the dangers of fooling with science. You making doppelgangers of other people. You making underground caverns, you know, which they do. They have made. There are places underground in certain cities where there are like cities under there. Like, why are you building? Like, why are they there? What are you building that kind of stuff for?
Yeah.
And so then when you panned over the bookshelf at the beginning of the movie, there was a video copy of the movie Chud.
Yep.
And the movie Chud was about underground dwellers and everything. So he was paying homage to the 80s film. So it was a lot that when you watch that movie over and over again, it's a lot to unpack when you're watching it. And it's a whole lot, you know. So that's why I appreciate directors like that put stuff out there and about you know our world and how we look at it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why I love this genre so much. It's because it can really like poke holes in a lot of things. Because even with us, like the Hands Across America idea, right? So I think Hands Across America was supposed to like raise awareness for hunger. But I mean, you have people who are like, all right, let's hold hands for 5 minutes across America to raise awareness to hunger. And it's like, these people are still hungry. All hold hands across America and they're still hungry. So it was even able, like something that small was even able to poke fun at like how we raise awareness and think that we're helping people with holding hands and singing Kumbaya, but it's all a facade. It's all for like our own, like, oh, we did charity this morning, so let's go have brunch on the patio and
just like Get Out. Get Out was, you know, had a lot to unpack in that movie. You know, you're talking about again the fetishization of black male bodies. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, my dad, you know, ran in the Olympics, but he was beat by a Black dude who was faster than my dad. I want that.
Yeah,
I want that Black body.
And even with her scrolling at the end, scrolling through first round draft picks of who's coming into college. So it's just, there's just so many subtleties that you can really like pop into these movies that I just absolutely love. And I think that's another reason why I'm just like over the slasher film, because I'm like just being awakened to how political like horror films can be. I'm just like, I'm no longer entertained by like Freddy or Jason. That doesn't scare me. So
have you seen Fear Street?
I have all three. I'm not gonna lie, Hank, your suggestions on Facebook, I usually take heed to. So you mentioned Fear Street and I watched it and I really enjoyed those films. Yeah, they were really awesome.
Yeah, they're good. The one thing I like about Jordan, if you notice, he's good at catching eyeballs. Like you can see he's good at catching directing eyes. Like you Daniel in Get Out, you see his eyes when he was in the chair when they was doing the tea. And then the little girl in Us, when they was like when they initially she found the doppelganger. Like you can see the eyeball. That is so good to me. Like both times you feel it. Like and it helps when you dark skinned too, and the eyeballs are super white. It's just like a contrast. That's beautiful.
And you notice that when the big thing that I took away too was that you notice that when they put the white consciousness in black bodies, they can't handle it. They went crazy.
Yeah.
You ain't ready for this. Your mind can't conceive being in this body. Right. Your mind can't conceive being with this melody. You can't handle it. You can't do it. It'll
Yeah.
drive you
I'm
crazy.
Unpack that for me, Hank.
Never thought about
Yeah.
that.
That's dope.
Yeah.
I didn't think about
thought
that
of
either.
that.
That's real.
Yeah, your mind can't be in this body. You don't have the historic DNA to be here, and so your body rejects it every time. You flash something in their face, and it immediately starts to reject it. You ain't built for these bodies. That's why you can't inhabit them.
Yeah. Wow.
You know what I'm saying? You can't inhabit our bodies. You're not ready for that. So yeah, every time they try to do it or put their consciousness inside our body, you just flash something in their face or whatever, and they're easily distracted, and it starts to undo what you've been trying to do.
Yep.
Well, and even to, I mean, all of our points about being fearful of being in all white spaces. At the beginning of Get Out, he's like, I'm in white suburbia, like, and I'm scared as hell. Like, I'm in this all white neighborhood, I'm scared. And I just thought that was very interesting for that to be within the first 30 seconds. And then even the Swahili song that plays right after that, it's like, run, boy, you better run. You better get out, you better
music,
run.
bro.
Yeah. So I'm like, even the music has a deeper meaning that.
He's good at that. And as soon as he finished, like everybody trying to flip, like, you know, slow down R&B songs now, like that's like he started that, but it gotta be the right song, like, you know what I'm saying? It's that song, that One Rabbit Run, it's like chilling to listen to, like, you know what I'm saying? And I never heard it before, like that movie, but
yeah,
even how I got 5 on it, that ain't got nothing to do with nothing but just them chords. They eerie.
Or even Say My Name, like
Candyman.
Like that was chilling.
Yeah.
But I looked up even the music at the beginning of Us, and it wasn't it didn't have any words. It was like like they wanted to use children's voices to make it even more haunting. But to the point about Say My Name, like I feel like we're in this age where we're seeing remakes, right? We've seen the remake of Candyman. I don't know if
it wasn't a remake. It wasn't a remake.
Wait, okay, so what would you call it then?
It was a sequel.
Well, no, it wasn't a remake. You're right. They didn't remake it. But
it was a sequel.
I guess so, not necessarily remakes, but like an updated, like they're using the older movies like Candyman. Even I Know What You Did Last Summer, because there's a series on Amazon Prime. I Know What You Did. We're in this age where we're seeing like OG films being kind of remade into sequels or series. So what are your thoughts on that? And then let's end by just talking about, let's keep with the Jordan Peele theme and talk about Candyman for a second.
Well, the reboot thing or remake thing or whatever, I mean, it's just brand recognition. That's just Hollywood brand recognition. You got people in suits that make decisions and they feel like, you know, doing something original at the studio level is, you know, it's kind of not easy to do. Or they don't feel it's easy to do. But companies like A24 are masters at it, or Blumhouse, great at it. You know what I'm saying? Who could make original horror films. Which harken back to what we love and everything. I'd say one of the ones I saw recently was James Wan's Malevolent. I love that movie. I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was everything. It was a horror film, an action kung fu movie. It was everything. You know what I'm saying? But you know, it was something original that you hadn't seen before. And so, but the studios didn't trust it, so they put it on HBO Max. You know what I mean? So I think
that's actually pretty scary. I'm not gonna lie.
It was good. I loved it. I loved it, and I think we can do more of that. But I think the suits feel like, you know, let's remake. They're getting ready to do another Friday the 13th. They're getting ready to do another Nightmare on Elm Street. They're getting ready, you know, and like how many the Halloweens, you know, and everything. Which the Halloweens are sequels. Actually, they're not reboots. They're actually direct sequels. But I mean, how long are we gonna keep beating that horse? You know what I'm saying? Instead of coming up with original horror films, you know. And it's just, I think it's just about marketing, brand recognition. Everybody recognizes Friday the 13th. You recognize Freddy and all these other things, you know, Jason and, you know, all that. So we recognize these franchises or these brands that they don't want to go to waste. So they'll just keep redoing it and redoing it. They're going to do another Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I'm like, how many more of these are we going to make? You know what I'm saying? It's like, come on. Yeah.
Yeah, even like the Conjuring universe, it's like 5 or 6 movies that came out of that. Like they'll find something that work and they just gonna milk it till it's gone, you know. And that's why, like he said, like A24, they are, I follow them just to see what are they looking at, like what, because they got a movie about a sheep kid. Like I don't know what's going on with it, but I want to see it.
It's
Yeah.
original.
Yeah,
Is
I
that
like stuff
Lamb?
like
Are you talking about Lamb?
Yeah, it's
Lamb.
out.
That's
It's out.
Yeah.
It's like who thinks of stuff, like who thinks of buying, like, you know what, I'm gonna spend my money on that movie, you know what I'm saying? Like that's bold for A24 to do that. So I like stuff like that. Like, and I liked that's for Candyman, I liked it, but it was at the end it got kind of weird. I didn't understand the ending of it too much, but Candyman was good, and it was kind of heavy-handed too with the message, like the gentrification and all that. It was kind of too much. Like every other line was like preachy. I don't like being preached to. Like, so
I was
yeah.
like, we didn't get Candyman, the Candyman until the last
Right.
5 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
yo, this is what I wanted to see when the cops came
Right.
and the slashing started. I was like, whoa, I wanted all that, like all through the movie. Like, why are we just now getting what we paid to see?
Right.
You know, you give me a history lesson every 5 minutes and stuff, and I was like, come on, man, y'all, you trying to beat the message over my head with it. You know what I mean? You could have put it in there subtly and built up to that, you know. But what I did like about Candyman was that the director was very purposeful. Nika DaCosta, she was very purposeful not to show Black trauma,
right?
And so she used the puppets and other ways to kind of divert us away from that. So we didn't really, you know, we saw that they caught dude in the wall, but we didn't see what happened to him. Right. So we didn't they didn't show the trauma of Black bodies like they did with the first film, you know, because you really saw in Tony Todd's version what they did to him, you know, chopped his hand off and all that stuff, you know, they showed it. And so in this version, they didn't really, they kind of showed away and went to the kids' reaction to the screaming and everything else instead of really showing Black trauma. And so I was glad that they didn't do that, or they didn't, you know, use that as torture porn for Black bodies, like like we seen in them and other shows. Don't even get me started on that show, but yeah,
it was a lot. That was a lot.
What are your thoughts? Have you seen the new Candyman, Nicole?
Who, me? Oh, I haven't seen it. The reviews, like what people were saying, kind of made me feel like it wasn't necessary to see. But I do want to see it. But I know, like with the remakes, the sequels, all of that Hollywood does, I'm not a fan of it in any genre. Like I get it because it's like, you know, when you put this movie out, it's gonna make money. So I get it, but it's done so much that it loses appeal. Like I would have been more interested had they had a new horror movie and wanted to see that, than you telling me it's a sequel to Candyman. Like just the fact that it's a sequel to something that came out that long ago, I'm already like I'm already not that interested.
Yeah, I definitely agree with both Jay and Hank. I mean, it was definitely political overload. So I felt like I was constantly trying to have a critical consciousness hat on to unpack and understand all of those themes versus just going in and being entertained by the film. I mean, I think that's why the first film worked so well, because you saw the subtleties. You saw, first of all, the idea of a white researcher wanting to come in and study Black lives and Black neighborhoods and how that lends itself to like sociologists and how, you know, Black lives and things are represented in research. You see just how, I mean, gentrification, the idea of gentrification was able to seep into, and you weren't hit over the head with it. But I also think, I mean, as great as the OG Candyman was, I also think you still see that theme of a Black predator preying on a white woman. So that still was, you know, something central and something that we saw in that film. So I thought that was interesting. But with this new Candyman, like you said, Hank, like we didn't even see him till the very end. And then really when we see him at the end, I'm kind of like, am I on Team Candyman here? Like,
Yeah.
I didn't know, like, I didn't know really what to make of it. So it was a lot. It was a lot to take in. Like I said, I was going to see it again, but I haven't been compelled to do so. But
I ain't either.
yeah, but I probably will once it hits HBO Max, I'll watch it again.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts or anything you want to add to this conversation?
I just think that, like I said before, if there are any Black filmmakers watching, as we've been saying, don't avoid, genre film. I mean, we need more of us to do that. We need more of us in genre films. It's for some reason, we keep staying in the same genre. We make historical films, biopics, comedies, ensemble comedies, and Tyler Perry-ish or faith-based movies. What a dark-skinned dude was the worst thing on the planet. But I digress.
Yep.
So let's do different types of movies. Let's do different types of movies. It's you can talk about the hood, you can talk about police brutality, you can talk about, all that in genre film. You can address all those issues within genre. It can be done. It just requires us to think outside the box, and let's do some things that's outside the box. Jordan Peele's success was he thought outside the box. He created some original works, and he's getting ready to with his next film called Nope, whatever that's about. Nope.
It looked like Nope. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm sure it's going to be a satire or whatever about things like that. And let's challenge ourselves to make more original films, with Black faces in them, that center around our lives and things like that. It can be done. We can do it. We just need to quit rebooting everything. They said they're getting ready to reboot Blackula. Like, who wants to see that? Like, okay, so let's do something original, guys. Let's challenge ourselves to think critically and do things more original.
Yeah. And if you're making if you're making a horror, just think long and hard, like what scares you first. If you're a Black person, think about that. I say, because if you're not scared, then how you expect the audience to be? That's how I look at it. And I agree 100% with Hank saying, like, with me and Nicole, like we try to our hardest to make movies that haven't been you haven't seen before. You know what I'm saying? Because we know that too. We see everybody doing the same thing. We try to flirt with every genre before we find out we know what we like, which we kind of like everything, but you just gotta just push yourself to like, okay, that's been done before. Let me think of something else. Just push yourself to be more creative than you have been recently. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's about it.
Yeah. Pull from experiences that you have, in life. I'm gonna lead this story with you and I'll shut up. I used to work for Schwann's when I was younger, the frozen food people. And I was and they would always, I don't know if they were doing it on purpose or whatever. They would always send me out to rural Oklahoma somewhere. And so I was in Kellyville and I pulled into what looked like basically a compound. So you had 4 houses on this property. So you had the main house, 3 other houses, and there was a big hill and a big red barn up there. Weird. So I pulled in, took the orders or whatever, went around the houses, and I went back to the main house because she told me to come back. She said, well, the son lives here, the daughter lives here, the other son lives here, etc. So I'm taking the orders and I go back. And the lady was a caretaker for the older people that lived there. They were like in their late 80s. And I was, let me ask you something. What's that red bar? And her face turned white. She said, don't go up there. She said, honey, don't go up there. Whatever you do, don't go up there. And it sent a chill down my spine because I'm in a white space, in a white town. And there's this weird big red barn on top of the hill. This is a true story. And it weirded me out. And I wanted out of that town immediately after that delivery. And so I pull from stuff like that you know, when I think about writing, pull from, like you said, like Jay said, what are you scared of? What are the things that scare you? What are the situations that you put yourself in or you have yourself in that are scary? You know, so a film like Tyrell, when I watched it, I was like, it's kind of weird. You know, I said, you got this brother in this white space and you like, and there's really no plot to it. It's just really, he's just there with them. And you as a Black person, you're watching it like, what's going to happen to this brother? Like, what is going on? And how that kind of scares us, being the only Black person in the room or being the only Black person in a white space. You know, how that frightens us. And so they could pull from those things when you're creating or when you're thinking about making Black horror films. And I think we can create a whole subgenre that'll work.
Yeah. Nicole, do you have any lasting words to leave us with?
I would say I would encourage anybody that wants to do horror to try it without the racial storyline, because I feel like even though Jordan Peele has kind of changed the genre and made it more creative, there's still a Black horror movie without a racial subtext that hasn't been mastered in my eyes. So that's still up to be grabbed. And that could be anybody that can go out and grab it because we still haven't really seen it.
Yeah, no, that's a really great point. Just, I mean, a horror film in general with the Black cast, you know, like, I mean, it doesn't have to be political, just a Black cast like that.
Yeah.
That's a really profound, Nicole, for real. Like, that's a good point.
That's true.
Yeah, that's real.
That's true. That's real.
100% real.
That's true.
Well, I want to thank our panelists, Nicole, Hank, Jay, for joining us today in this important conversation, and also our appreciation to the folks that make Real Talk possible: Tri-City Collective, the Woody Guthrie Center, Folk Alliance International, Tulsa Artist Fellowship, and the Black Wall Street Times. And thank you to all that joined us live today. Join us again next month. Real Talk is live every third Saturday. Hi, everyone. Have a good Saturday and happy Halloween.
Peace.
Peace.
Happy Halloween.